Hi everyone, Sunita here. Great news for those of us living in Singapore. We are about to move into phase 2. For those of you not in Singapore, all that means is that we are moving out of a lockdown period and into a greater sense of freedom. Now, when I first heard the news, I was actually really sad. And then I quickly moved into excitement and then nervousness and, a bit of anxiety. But I was still happy. Now, I think there may be some of you out there who may have felt or are feeling all of these emotions as we prepare to move into this on Friday. Now, this is actually really normal. And this is part of something in psychology we call reverse culture shock. This is a concept that I'm going to explain to you in a bit more detail so that you can better manage and anticipate the stages that you may be going to go through soon. But more importantly, I'm going to share with you 6 strategies that's going to help you better manage what's about to come. Are you ready? Let's go. So what is reverse culture shock? Quite simply, it's the psychological and emotional distress that a person feels when they return to their home country after being abroad for many years. Some of us may have gone overseas for studying or for work. And then when they come back home, they have to readapt to the culture that they kind of lost touch with. So this is the same thing that we are going to be experiencing when phase 2 starts for us. Life as it was before circuit breaker. So imagine reverse culture shock to be like a U-shaped curve. Initially, there's a sense of euphoria about returning to greater freedoms. You want to go to your favorite restaurants, you're excited to meet your friends, and you get to wear your favorite clothes. But then slowly that euphoria kind of dies down. And then you start feeling, well, these things that I thought would give me the joy that I was looking forward to is not really as fulfilling as I thought it would be. And then you go into this kind of sadness where you miss the things that you used to do when we were under lockdown. And this is often the roughest part of the curve. And that's because there are about 4 stages that a person goes through in reverse culture shock. So the 4 stages are sadness, happiness, which then transcends into a kind of state of alienation and disorientation. So just know that if you do experience any one of these stages, it's quite normal, and don't panic about why you're feeling this way when you're supposed to feel happy. Now, these are kind of like the stages of grief, because what you are going through is a grieving process. We are going to mourn the loss of routines that we've just gotten used to, and in a way that we might not have otherwise in a pandemic. For example, a lot of us have found this new love and joy for baking, of going inward. And more importantly, I think many of us got the chance to spend an extraordinary amount of quality time with people that we love, like our spouses and children. And as time went on, it became something that was so fulfilling. And now that we're going into something that is not going to perhaps allow for that as much, just know that as you would tell someone who's grieving, that it's okay. Give yourself time to go through these stages. Now, the good news is, although it may take some time, you will begin a gradual adjustment back to being comfortable with where you are and whom you are becoming. So here, as promised, are the 6 ways you could better help yourself. Number 1, share your experiences with others. Talk about how you're feeling, how it's strange, how you think you could be happier and you're wondering why you're not. You'll be surprised. A lot of people are going to share the same sentiment. And naming what you feel often is the very thing that helps us move away from a sense of feeling stuck. Number 2, establish your priorities of what truly matters to you. It is quite important that you do this before going on to the other 4 strategies that I recommend. Now, the reason being that in this time where we were under circuit breaker measures, you were able to kind of connect with things that truly make you feel fulfilled. And so before we go out in the world and it overtakes us again, I think it's so important to list the things that you want to continue in your life. Spending more time, making more time, doing certain activities that gave you a lot more joy. So start a list and number them in the order that you know would be non-negotiable. Number 3, innovate a new way of earning a new side income. I do know that while some of us are very lucky to be going back to jobs, the reality is I think a lot of us are still quite worried about our financial security. And for most of us, I think we may have figured out different ways, creative ways of being able to sustain ourselves financially. And I would suggest that while we have the opportunities of being a bit more stable when we go back into the working world, or being able to meet new people that could give us more opportunities, continue working on something so that in the event that there is a spiked increase, which I know many of us are worried about, and we may have to revert to another circuit breaker measure, you will have a better defined plan instead of feeling a bit lost as we did when all of this happened. Number 4, establish a new schedule that includes your newfound hobbies and passions. It doesn't have to be newfound, but it should include all the things you were able to do a bit more of when we were under lockdown. I think it's so important because those are the very things that break the monotony and fear of a life that's very fast-paced, one that we fear going back to. Number 5, very important, keep exercising and going out in nature. I think for many of us, this is something that we kind of did a bit more of under lockdown because we were just dying for a sense of movement, freedom. But more importantly, engaging in exercise has a huge part with relieving stressful symptoms, and it also boosts our immunity and mental fortitude. So this is one of the things I would highly, highly recommend, which is to keep up whatever new exercise routine that you have established for yourself. If not, then to reconnect with nature as often as you did when we had the time to do so. So instead of going back into a concrete jungle, that of buildings and work, please, I cannot emphasize this enough. Physical health is such an important part of maintaining mental health. So that would be one of the most important things I would also suggest that you do. Finally, number 6, practice mindfulness. In the practice of bringing your attention and focusing on the present moment while feeling a sense of gratitude for what you still have in your life and that you can be thankful for. Yes. If you do find yourself getting swept up with the whirlwind of sending the kids to school, going back to work, fulfilling all these social appointments, then if there's only one other thing you could do, I would suggest setting aside 2 minutes in a day to sit down, focus on your breath, and there are many videos out there that can guide you through that, and to reconnect with just feeling that sense of peace and presence. It is a skill that can be trained over time. It's like building a muscle, and I would highly encourage you to find out more about it. So I've shared with you what reverse culture shock is and some strategies that you could use to help you better prepare for what's to come. If you found this useful, do share this video, because sometimes you never know how just one of these ideas could help make a big difference in someone else who's going through something similar. Have a lovely weekend ahead until my next video. Goodbye.